Welcome everyone to the OpenE webinar. Today's OpenE webinar is going to be solutions with OpenE DSS v6 with dynamic units for backups. So some of the topics we're going to be going over with today on November 1st, 2011 is some of the dynamic units that DSS can perform with the USB drives, SATA drives, and RAID sets, fiber channel targets, and iSCSI targets. My name is Todd Maxwell. I'm part of the technical sales team, and we're going to be demonstrating how these functions and uses work with the backups of DSS v6. The webinar is always recorded. At the end, I'll show you where they are located on our OpenE website. But for your reference, it's always located at www.open-e.com, and there is a tab called Libraries. Click on that, and on the bottom you'll see webcasts and demos. Presentation is muted. Well, that's to avoid background noise and allows you to listen to the presentation without interference. Questions are always welcome, so please use your NetViewer window. Right on the right side there is a chat section where you can type your messages there, and I will be happy to answer them. Okay, let's begin. I have two DSS systems up right now, and I wanted to show everybody this. The one on the left here that I'm just pointing to, these will be my targets that I'm going to present for the other DSS system called DSS Backup. As you see up there on the top here, we have DSS Backup. So this DSS system, just we'll refer back to it, is the target that we're going to provide for the fiber channel and for the iSCSI. Okay, now let's go right directly to the DSS v6. Where you want to go to start is pretty much go into configuration, volume manager, and then volume groups. One of the things that I started off with, and I want to kind of present everything to everybody here, is that we have a bunch of units here. So I have what's on the 150 gig, basically it's a USB drive. I'm using an external port. So I'm taking a SATA drive, connecting it to a USB conversion, and plugging it back into my server. So that is going to be my USB drive I'm using. You want to be, pretty. I see a lot of people in there that try to kind of use a USB flash stick. You can if it's larger than 8 gig, but typically I don't really see that. So this is why I'm simulating it. So if you take a look here at the 150 gig drive, I'm going to click here on any action, create new dynamic volume. And I'm going to name this as dynamic. We'll call it USB 0 USB that I already have preset for you. Okay, we'll go ahead and apply that. And then what's going to happen is they're going to start being listed right underneath the volume groups on the left side. So it does take a second or two to format it into the dynamic unit, so that way you can utilize it as a library. Okay, so now you see that we have the dynamic 00 USB, and let's look at this drive here. Now this is a SATA drive that I just plugged right into the motherboard. So you could do this as well. If you could have multiple drives in there, you can list them. You can also use a software array if you create it and create a dynamic volume as well. But we'll show that with the next one on unit S002. So this is a regular drive, a hard drive that's connected to the motherboard. It's a SATA drive, and I'm going to name that dynamic unit. We'll go 01 HD for a hard drive. We'll go ahead and format that one. Later on in the session, I'm going to go right into the backup functionality so you can see how the dynamic units are used as kind of like a virtual tape library. Okay, so now we have that completed. And this one is about 3.4 terabyte RAID set that I created from the RAID array. With DSS v6, we have a built-in LSI functionality with the hardware RAID function. If we go in here, you'll see that I've created two volumes. One is my large 3.x terabyte that we're looking at. So you can create your RAID arrays here. Of course, we have all the functionalities for the read policies, access policies, cache policies, and of course, identification of the disk. And then you can go ahead and create your RAID sets anywhere from, depending upon the type of RAID controller. This one is set for 0, 5, and 6. So if we go right back to our volume manager, and this is our RAID that we've created, RAID 5 or RAID 6. Typically, if you're gonna, I wouldn't waste the drives on a RAID 10. I probably do, unless you're looking for real high-speed performance. Let's go ahead and set this to our dynamic volume. Call this. I got a RAID 5 on that configuration. I have some customers that will ask, what is really the fastest way, the best way to use for a backup functionality? Well, if you already got your volumes on a RAID array already, the best and fastest is to add another RAID controller. And then, of course, create your RAID set of whatever size you need. And that is really the fastest way. You don't have to. If you're looking for just regular volume capacity, then you could use your existing RAID controller, maybe using a SAS expander for a JBOD, and use that as your virtual tape system. So now that we have our listed USB hard drive and RAID 5 dynamic volumes, let's go ahead and show the fiber channel next. Now, I've already configured the server, but we're going to walk through it, how to use fiber channel targets to be used with dynamic volumes. What I've done is I've gone over to, let's go to the other DSS server, and I've created a fiber channel volume of 500 gig. I just took the default block size of 512. I have to make sure, because with DSS, when you use a QLogic, and by the way, QLogic is the only HBA, fiber channel HBA, that we do have support for target mode. So here I'm using the QLogic 2462, of course 8 gig, 4 gig, and 2 gig will work as well. I have to make sure that it's set to target mode. By default, it's set to initiator mode, so make sure that you're aware of that. You can split the ports, so if you want to use one for an initiator for something else, you can go ahead and we'll use the other port. To identify the port, it's very simple. Here you'll see 00, that's obviously port 1, or port 0, and port, this means the other port, which would be port 2. Okay, now once I basically have my target set for my initiator, target for my fiber channel setup, target mode, you want to go into the configuration, fiber channel target manager, and go to groups. Now, what I've done is I created a group called DSS Dynamic. This is more of a private group. The default group that we have listed here is really for a public group where everybody can see it. So I'd like to keep my groups private. And here we have the volume of the 500 gig that we've already assigned. Now, what's missing here in a private group is that you have to have a worldwide name, no name alias. Well, how do you get that? Very simple. If you look over here on the left, we have the WWN aliases. And what's really easy about this is that it needs a name. You can create any type of naming convention. So here we'll just use another port. And of course, you will need the address. Now, the address can be obtained from, let's say, a DSS or from any system. On the back of the HBA, it has it listed there next to the port numbers. So you can always jot it down there. Or if I want to find out what the other DSS that I have set up here for its fiber channel, let's go into Setup, Fiber Channel. And here you can see them listed here as well. So if I were to want this port or this port, which is the secondary port or port 1, and this is port 0, then all I have to do is go back to the DSS, and I'll say that's port 1. And paste that in there. And now I've created my alias right here. Then at this point, we'll just go back to the private group that we've created. And we make sure that DSS is listed in there. And of course, hit apply. So this will help you. And keep in mind that if you try to utilize MPIO, we don't have that functionality. So you'll see duplications of the volume, so you want to be careful of that. So just keep in mind that we don't have the MPI multipathing functionality with fiber channel in initiator mode. We have it in target mode. Okay, so let's go back to the DSS backup server, and of course, you have to make sure that this is in initiator mode to pick up the volume. It's 500 gigs, so let's go back to our volume manager and volume groups. And here you see that it's available. Let's go ahead and click on it, and we'll create our dynamic volume. And we'll call this Dynamic 04 for fiber channel. Now there's one last one while we're waiting to format that volume. The next one is going to be for iSCSI. So this is where you're going to see unit S006 with 900 gig that we've created. So let's go back to our other DSS server. Of course, that could be, again, it could be another target. If you're using another product that provides target, and that also goes for the fiber channel, we'll see it and we'll be able to utilize it. Let's go to our DSS, and I want to go back to our volume manager and groups. I can show you that I've created the iSCSI volume. Here you'll see LV001. That's my iSCSI volume, and of course my 900 gig. And I want to go to configuration, iSCSI volume manager, iSCSI target manager, and then here is the target one that I've created to be used for the dynamic unit. So you see that the size is verified. I am using write-back since I'm not using the replication. So this is a good feature to have for performance. And of course, once I hit the plus sign to activate it. I also did something else down here. I wanted to deny everybody on all subnets and networks due because I want to make sure that I'm only allowing the DSS backup server, which is this IP address, 2.221, so that no one else will be able to access it, because I don't want anything to happen to my target overview or overridden. So I want to make sure I dedicate that IP address only for this DSS. And once that's enabled, then I'm ready to go ahead and create my dynamic unit. And here we'll call this for iSCSI. So you can see that there's a lot of ways to back up your data using dynamic units. So we have listed already going back to the USB drive, the hard drive, just a regular SATA drive. It could be really a SAS. It could be even an IDE. Of course, you might have a performance issue with the IDE. You could use different RAID sets. Here I have a RAID 5. And of course, I could use iSCSI as an iSCSI target to bring in, and fiber channel. So there's a lot of ways that you can back up your data. You can also, what we probably want to go into now is let's look at how to set up the backup system, really, how to set that up. One of the things I did do, if we look here, I have a NAS volume because DSS has the backup functionality, built-in DSS, but it's for NAS shares only. So we don't have a functionality to back up what we call block-based for fiber channel and iSCSI. So I have my volume here, my NAS volume, and I want to make sure that I've created an extra NAS volume. You can see LV00, it's very small. This is where I put the database library for the backup software that we have. So, and then this would be where all my data resides. And of course, I have a snapshot assigned to where my data is, where the backup's going to back up from. So you want to make sure that that database is kind of isolated on its own. A lot of you don't have to, but that's just my preference. Now we can go right into configuration, into NAS settings. If we scroll all the way down, we selected the local backup database where it's going to be setting all the settings and the database, and I used LV00, the one that we talked about previously. Some asked me what size is recommended. Even a 4 gig is fine. Really, it take many years to even fill up that 4 gig. So don't be afraid that you're not giving it enough space, and you can always grow it as well. So you go back and grow the logical volume. So once you have your local backup done and settings, then we're pretty much ready to go into maintenance, and then go to backup and backup pools. Now backup pools basically just organize and groups your tapes. So here I've created multiple pools, because I have a USB, I have a hard drive, a RAID set, fiber channel, and I want to show all of them being used. So now I'm ready to go. I see my first dynamic volume being listed. We'll create that dynamic USB. And this takes a few seconds. When what happens is that it's just formulating the tape, structuring it to be used. And of course, we'll take the next one. And we'll take the RAID set that we created. And we'll go ahead and continue with the fiber channel. And now we'll do the iSCSI one. So now that we have them all listed, so we show that we have all these, the dynamic volumes are created in the units. Let's click on the USB first one. So here we see that we can label the new tape. We can assign it to the pool. Let's just go ahead and we'll just call this USB. And here's the tape size limit. And here we have the options going megabytes, gigabytes, and terabytes. So please be aware for this we only have about 150 gigs, so we can just go right in here, specify 100 gig, and apply. Of course, you would have something much larger than that to be able to apply. So here you'll see that the backed up tape here, the device that we have, you can see where it will be first written, last written, the retention time, and so let's go ahead and put our let's put a larger one. We don't need to do all of them, just the larger ones, just to show an idea of what's going on. We can call this one the RAID set 5. And we'll select P2. And here I could set it for the 800 gig. And if you want to know something here, is you can create some tapes. Let's say you have one tape for full backups for every Friday of the month, and then you could create another tape for another size and put it into a different pool and create a different size amount for maybe incrementals. So here we put one for 100 gig. We can call this RAID 5 for incrementals. So you can see you have different tapes that you can use and split them up or carve them out however you want to. So again, iSCSI is pretty much the same thing. You're grouping your tape pools. You go to iSCSI, use pool 4, and of course you can create your size again in megabytes, or gigabytes, or terabytes. So we can add this and more tapes, so you kind of organize it. So that's pretty much how simple it is to use dynamic units and volumes with the backed up functionality with DSS v6. So that I think helps everybody explain the different uses and different ways to use it. It's kind of valuable to have, especially when you know there's all these ways you can. It kind of helps you to be able to back up your data.